Like, what are you comfortable paying? Based on this number, you can afford this much. Like, oh, that's way too low. This is what you're comfortable with. I don't think that you should go higher than that. If you want to, I will help you get there. But hey, like to stay within your comfort zone. And those who have stayed in the comfort zone are still fine. And you can be very aggressive. You can make a lot of money in a bullish market. But when interest rate hikes, like 14.25% hikes this year, man, you're gonna get negative cash flow. You're gonna start bleeding a little bit.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Property Hustler Show. My name is Andrew, and today Peng and I are joined by Kevin Huynh, who is a principal broker with Empire Mortgage Group, and he is also a seasoned investor who has recently started doing some very exciting things when it comes to abroad investing as well. You've been doing some deals in Costa Rica here. I'm actually really jealous about that.
Awesome, guys. No, thank you so much for having me here today. Property Hustlers, love the name, love the grind that you guys have built over the years here.
What are some of the benefits of your efforts? For example, I think at some point you get to a point where you can start doing investments that are also just fun. Some things that you like,
Sure. Yeah.
things that also, just like, I like this type of lifestyle and therefore I can invest in a synergistic way or something, right? Is it all practical, your foreign investments, or is it?
Very practical. You got to make money.
Yeah.
First and foremost, you got to make money. But if you can have fun making money,
do you have fun doing that too?
100%, right? So I've always wanted to have multiple streams of income.
Yeah.
I think like we've all read books or listened to podcasts where, billionaires have 6-7 different streams of income.
Yeah.
So I've always tried to maximize my income and never put all my eggs in one basket, as in the Canadian real estate financing market. So you can diversify just even the Canadian markets alone.
Mm-hmm.
With our head of government, there's a lot of misdirection or just lack of direction sometimes. It's nice to just kind of invest in other countries as well. And on top of that, it is fun. Paying like you were down in Costa Rica, man.
So nice, man.
So nice, dude. So
nice.
And I think it all started and stemmed from a trip down to Costa Rica with a good friend of mine, Shane. He's been investing there for a number of years, and I went for a run on the beach. It was like a sunrise. Went for a run. And I could have ran forever, dude, man. It was just so serene and so peaceful. And I'm like, it's like freezing back at home. Like my car door is frozen shut. And like, I'm here running on the beach. And at that moment, I'm like, I wish all my friends and families were here. And why can't they experience this, right? And often we get so trapped in our everyday lives and it becomes so mundane that we don't realize what else is out there. Until you start traveling, right? Peng, you travel and it puts life into perspective.
Oh,
a lot, right? So I'm like, hey, Andrew, Peng, we have a spot in Costa Rica. Go experience it. Go use it.
I mean, that's a flex too, right?
So, well, try it out. But at the same time, I'm still making Airbnb income.
Yeah.
And I'm more than happy to sit down and run the numbers with you guys. It's very lucrative. It's more lucrative sometimes than my private financing investments, right? So, and if that's the case, you're doing a disservice to yourself if you don't explore those options. That's started it. And then when you realize that you need people on the grounds down there, that's where partner up with, people who have invested in those countries before is very beneficial for me.
Okay, question for you, because
of course.
When I was in Costa Rica, I met up with a couple Canadian investors who was also doing the development over there.
Amazing.
And then they were from BC, but part of the reason why they were able or felt comfortable doing that was because they also spoke Spanish.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you speak Spanish or how?
Great question, man. I started taking Spanish classes.
Really?
Yeah. You know what? Because I was down there and I had two guys negotiating and I felt like I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, you don't want to feel vulnerable like that.
You do feel vulnerable, right? And so I actually started taking Spanish classes. It's so tough to learn a new language as an adult, not being immersed into that country. Right. But I think the more time I spend down there, the more you'll pick it up. But I think it's very beneficial. And to that question, Peng, that's one of the reasons why I invested in Belize. Because Belize is the only South American country where English is their primary language. So everything is English based. They go to school to speak English. So when you're there, you're actually negotiating in English the whole time, knowing the local language.
Right.
Very, very beneficial.
You got a friend who got you into that market. And so you were investing passively in the very beginning. And now, what's your role? Like active investors or passive investors?
I'm very passive down there. So we have a group of 4 of us that have started investing. And I think moving forward, if our first couple works out well, then we'll continue to acquire properties. The one hurdle that we're seeing is that all of our purchases so far have been cash based. Until we buy enough properties where we show experience in those countries or one of our partners become a local resident, it's very tough for us to get financing. But even if we do get financing, the rates are very, very
Super
high.
high.
Were you born in Canada?
Born in Canada,
You're born in
yes,
Canada. Do you
yeah.
have family anywhere else?
Yeah, so my parents are Vietnamese.
Vietnamese,
Yeah,
okay.
so my mom and dad came over during the Vietnam War.
Mm.
So, my uncle and cousins are still in Vietnam, and my mom's side of the family is out in BC.
Okay.
But my dad's side and most of my family is here in Ontario.
There's not as much of a strong connection back home to people.
Not
who've been-
really. Yeah,
Okay.
not really. And I'm sure you guys can attest to with their homelands is that because we do live in Canada, naturally they think that we're wealthy and rich.
Yeah,
So every time you go back home, right?
Yeah.
You know, like distant cousins, friends of the family all come by, and unfortunately, you know, their lifestyle, it's like they need funding, they need financing. It becomes almost like I don't want to use the word nuisance, but because I love my family and I want to visit them. But it becomes just like, you know, they're just begging for money the whole time. So, but I love the country. Like I love for you guys to come with me to experience Vietnam. Like
Oh,
Vietnam.
I've been there.
Yeah,
Been
yeah,
there.
right. So I took my
cool.
wife, who is, you know, an amazing woman and an even better mother, and but she is a Caucasian Catholic female from Stony Creek, right?
Yeah.
So to put her in the middle of you know, Ho Chi Minh City or Saigon, it was the culture shock is real. It's real, but she loved it. She immersed in it, tried every kind of food, and had the time of her life. And I'm like, hey man, I love to experience that with all my friends and family.
There's a degree of perspective, I think, that comes with that, especially when it comes to potential ventures. Because yes, they may think, you know, your family may think, okay, if you're going to come over here, you probably have money or you can do things, right?
Right.
But there are people who go back home and experience certain advantages, right? Like it's interesting to me that you decided to do this in Belize and other South American places and didn't take an opportunity back in Vietnam where there's some familial connections. We have some construction team. There's one guy, he's from the Philippines, and he works, he saves money here, and he builds custom homes in the Philippines.
Come on,
Right?
no
Yeah.
way. Really
And
cool.
he has like,
Yeah.
and he's been doing this for the last. He saves up enough to build one a year.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and he has
Wow.
he has like 8 of them, and I was
Wow.
like, wow, he's a very humble guy. He has different reasons for doing it and all, but
Sure.
it's interesting because he says, you know, what he says, I don't know enough about it, but he says that yeah, a lot of the values have been going up because you know the Philippines has had some changes happening to it that apparently happening. I don't know too much about it, but when you're saying to do foreign investment and you look at foreign economies, what's happening, what they're doing, and what kind of growth may come,
Right.
these are other market swings that you
Right.
can invest in and take advantage of if you just are familiar. But again, you need people like what you said. You need people on the ground over there who know what's going on.
And I love to invest in Vietnam. The flight over there is one
crazy.
thing. Well, you know, Belize, Costa Rica, the U.S. It's a short flight down. Even the longest flight I take for any investment is 5 hours. Right. So to go 24 hours, it's because I do like to periodically check in those properties as well. Check on the property manager. Check on the construction team to make sure they are running like a tight ship down there. I would love to invest in Vietnam and knowing the markets down there. It's all my close connections down there they're just grinding through life, right? So they're grinding, they're trying to make ends meet, and they don't necessarily. I don't really have any close contacts in construction either. I think that's also one deterrent. It's kind of I trust my family, but I don't trust my family's friends down there for say, right?
That's
so,
smart.
So I talk to my dad all the time though. I'm like, Dad, if you ever want to go back there and like manage a small portfolio, I'd love to invest down there for sure.
Well, I mean, that's actually a good point. Does your dad want to retire there?
Yeah, you know, he's always back and forth. He just recently retired, and so he's trying to find his direction right now. But I'm like, Dad, like you have dual citizenship, right? I mean, we can get you financing down there and stuff like that, right? So the conversation has opened his eyes on some opportunities, but he's old school. Put my head down. I'm going to go to work. Like, don't take risk. Save every dollar I have. Make sure there's some money under the mattress, right? So at his age, to try to get him to realize the entrepreneurial mindset, it's a little difficult, right? So, but
And also they need to play safe, right?
they'll work until their last days if they could, right? So, but I'm like, Dad, like, spend the money, use it, please. Like, you know, you gotta save for you guys in the ground. Like, Dad, like, I love you to death, and I'm very appreciative, but you've lived a very hard life, and I've won the lottery when you brought me over here, really, right?
Yeah,
So
we
I'm
already
like, Dad,
won, yeah.
thank you, Dad, and like, enjoy it. You buy that new car. You know what I mean? Like, he's fixing his car every month. I'm like, yeah, like you deserve it, right? So take trips and travel and stuff like that. But it's tough, man. It's a very, very stubborn, old school mindset.
What's your daily focus right now?
Keep my kids healthy. You know,
That's a good focus.
parenting is tiresome but so rewarding. Like running a mortgage business is way easier than parenting. right? Real estate investing is way easier than parenting.
What kids do you have? A boy, girl?
I have 2 girls, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Oh.
Yeah. God bless my wife. With business and investing, the structure and process. There's no structure and process with kids. We're late going to daycare. It's just starfish on the ground. So I'm not going. What do you mean you're not going? Like, late. You got to go. So you end up picking her up. She's screaming to the car. Her neighbor's looking at you. We drop her off at daycare. She's still kicking and screaming. All the teachers looking at you. Like, I should walk away. And it is what it is. It's so astonishing and ping. Like, I'm sure you can attest to it too. Is that like, before kids, all they care about is building an empire, making money, making more money. And the kid comes and nothing in the world matters.
Oh,
it's actually astonishing. Like literally everything in my business just kind of just froze. And I'm like, I would do whatever it takes to keep my children alive and safe. You can't describe it. You have to go through it for yourself. But it is incredible. My main focus is, keep the lights on, keep food on the table. But then, on the business side, it's just to grow.
You know what? It's interesting that you say that because before I had my newborn, I was always thinking, I was literally wondering whether or not it's going to put more fire on me or I'm going to shift my focus into family, right? And you actually did both. When I was holding her, when I was like spending time, I don't want any interruption. Outside of that, I want to go full speed because now my time is super limited. I want things to grow faster without my time. It's a very interesting perspective. And I'm still going through that kind of adjustment with my mindset. In a way, also put a lot of pressure to the team.
Man, I've become way more efficient. We got to get out the door. We got to get out quick. And you do become way more efficient of your day. I've time blocked before to keep my days and weeks efficient. My time blocking is so key now with the family, right? Because I love my family. And like I've seen friends, family that have sacrificed family for work and they're very successful. All the accolades and kudos to them. And they're very successful, but there's no balance.
We're talking about the definition of success now, right?
Correct.
Like,
yeah.
Where are you successful?
It's such a loose term, right? So, and everyone defines it a little differently. And to me, like 60%, that's the divorce rate in Canada. Like, so
That's
6 out of 10.
That's really high.
6 out of 10 of your buddies go through a divorce, separation. Growing up, like, you know what I mean? Like my parents were separated and stuff like that, right? So to me, it's like, how do I be part of that 40%, right? But not only that, to keep a marriage, but keep a healthy marriage and have that balance where I don't want to miss my kids, first soccer goal or, her first recital or whatever it is, right? I want to be there every step of the way. In order to do that, you have to operate efficient business and continue to work on it, not in it, or else you get trapped being business for self, not business owner.
There's a healthy balance to this type of thing that you're describing. Actually, I think I heard Grant Cardone say something to this effect where he says, well, if I want to look for somebody who's going to be a successful business owner or operator, I don't actually look at somebody who tells me, oh, I work all the time, or this is how hard I work.
Right.
He's like, I look at things that they do outside of work, like their hobbies, their family life. How happy are they around this? Because he says, if you have somebody who will focus so much on the work, they don't focus on their family, how good are they going to be long term if they can't anchor the fundamentals of what makes you fulfilled and happy, which, is family. And I feel like people who don't understand how to value that, they're lost in some way.
Andrew, I totally agree. And I love family. I love traditions. I love our Sunday dinners. Like I love all these things so much. And I want to surround myself with people who share kind of the same mindset. And I think through work, through life, through personal, through family, if you surround yourself with people who have the same mindset with you, I think that's how we all grow. Early on in my career, I was just so worried about impressing every single person. I want every single person out there to like me. I was always a yes guy. Like I was a yes guy until last year. And then you realize you got to start saying no to things. And you got to eliminate, those who, what I call like weeds in your life, like the networking gardener. It's a term. One of my good buddies' father used to tell me, he's a great networker. And he told me, he's like, hey, whenever you meet somebody, define them into 3 different categories: the good, neutral, or the bad. And then as a garden, right, the bad is the weeds. You're trying to pull them out of your life. At some point, I don't need to impress you. If I'm doing something that I think is will give me fulfillment, you're gonna pull me back down because you're jealous, you're envious, and you're just bad people, and you try to eliminate every single weed in your life. And then there's the neutral people. Usually, typically college, high school friends. They're the grass, the lawn. Mm-hmm. You mow them once in a while. They're awesome. They're there. You usually see them during the holidays, 1 round of golf a year. They don't bring any benefit to you financially, but they're just good people. Then there's the good people, the positives, right? The azaleas, the magnolias, the beautiful orchids, where those are the people that will benefit you both personally and financially, and you guys will do some powerful things together. and you want to nurture those relationships. You want to water those plants. You want to really grow together. And you can surround yourself with more and more of those people. That's when you're like, you're on the path to greatness. Get rid of all those weeds, all those naysayers in your life.
Get rid of all the negativities, right? People who are bringing a
100%.
lot of negativity to you. You're such a good networker. Like we're seeing how you're networking, like
Thanks,
how
man.
you're arranging the
Yeah.
golf tournament for
Thanks,
your
man.
people and everything. So you talk about the bad, neutral, and then the good people, right? How do you connect up based on your experience? Because right now, obviously, there's a lot of people that you're connecting. How do you determine who's actually worth your time?
Yeah, no, that's a great question.
Yeah, how do you find those magnolias?
yeah. We all have amazing people in our lives. Either they're mentors, they're partners, or they're good friends in the industry, outside the industry. Similar people kind of gather in similar groups. You're going to connect with more like-minded people. So spend more time with those people and then get to know their friends and family. Right? And I think that's how you start to connect on like just in those groups of those like-minded people, like you're saying. Like, I don't think I'm a great networker. Like I just genuinely love meeting new people and I care. It's like, hey, Ping Andrew, like, what are you doing with your business? How can I help? Right? If you own a restaurant, how can I book an event or how can I go there to help you support your business? And I don't want a discount. If you own a restaurant and you're a good friend, you never ask for a discount on anything. You pay full prices to support them, right? If you own a shop, if you own like a custom rug company, like, how can I make rugs for my clients, right? So I genuinely love supporting good people. I've benefited from that because if you support them unconditionally, eventually what goes around comes around.
It's very altruistic.
Yeah. So to answer your question, Ben, yeah, just surround yourself with people that share the same mindset. I think in our system of competitiveness, because we're all competitive, that's why we're entrepreneurs. We're constantly comparing ourselves to other people. Oh, this guy's doing 10 million. This guy's doing 100 million. You go on social media on their profile. Oh man, 500 million under management. Like, who cares, man? Like, literally, who cares? There's so much fluff out there. That's unbelievable. You guys have seen so much fluff out there. Like, even top 10, top 20 podcasts is real estate podcasts in Canada. Like, how many of those guys are actually doing anything? I don't know. But like, I can tell them that a lot of it is fluff. Take it with a grain of salt and just don't compare yourself with those people. Are you in a better position today than you were a year ago? If you say yes, you won. You won that year. If you say no, okay, let's take a step back. How do you change that? Right? Because if you do the same thing every single day, you can't expect to change. Especially in this market, we're seeing mortgage brokers, realtors in this market. They're like, oh, I'm really slow, man. Are you? Like, I'm busier than ever. You know why? Because we pivot. We have foresight in the market. We pivot. And we're like, hey, we're always ahead of the curve. Your research interest rate article is awesome. I'm researching labor studies, inflation numbers, bond yields, unemployment rates, vacancy rates, and putting it all together and trying to make the best hypothesis for myself on where the market's going. Who predicted a 350 basis points hike in 8 months? Not a single economist in Canada. The most conservative person we talked to was a higher up at Scotiabank, and he thought it was going to go up 3%, 300 basis points. Surpass that. And he's the most pessimistic guy in the world. Like, he thought the world was going to end like yesterday. So for me, like, no one could predict it. So you got to really, do the research for yourself. I was talking to a very successful mortgage broker in Ontario, and he's like, man, I'm actually really mad at myself. The government made so much money during COVID, and the interest rates are so low. They're actually printing money. How did I have the foresight to know that eventually rates are going to go up at a rapid pace, right? We should have the foresight to do that. The government fell behind on raising interest rates. So we should have the foresight to know that they're going to do it rapidly and prepare myself, our clients, our partners for that, right? But we trust the experts, right? We always trust the experts. That's why they're there. That's why they're called experts, right? So, but at the end of the day, like, the past is the past. Hindsight, oh, I should have locked in, 299 when I had a chance. I'm like, dude, you're coming up for renewal in 6 months. You want to lock in at 299? Your variable rate I got you is 1.1. At that time paying, I'm like, you're 1.1. Let's lock into a 3% rate. Would you have done it? No chance. Okay, let's calculate back how much money we've saved over the last 4.5 years. Let's talk about that, right? So, because hindsight's 2020. Sure, locked in, sure. But like right now, it's like, okay, how do we plan for the future? Tell the truth, man. If you're a new mortgage advisor in this market, it's very, very tough. We're seeing a lot of them leaving the market right now. There's probably just under 20,000 mortgage brokers across Canada. We're going to see that number dwindle quite a bit over the next 6 months. If you're a new mortgage advisor, unless you have the right mentorship, it's so tough to navigate through this market and advise your client the right way. Even your experienced mortgage agent or broker, they're very reactive. Hey, you got this one property, I need to refinance. Okay, amazing. I'll refinance you on this singular particular property. They're very, very reactive in a chance where they're only worried about one thing. There's probably I say 10 brokers in the city that actually plan. Okay, what's your plan? Okay, awesome. I can get you refinance, but if that refinance screws you up for anything you want to do in the future, then that's not really a plan. Like you're just being reactive. A good mortgage advisor, mortgage broker would plan what's going to happen in the next 6, 12, 18, 2 years, 3 years down the road. And let's plan your portfolio accordingly. It's very, very tough. And first of all, very tough. It's very time consuming, right? So if you don't have the right team in place or the right process in place, you're not going to be able to do it. For all the listeners out there, whoever your mortgage advisor is, first of all, if you're using a mortgage broker, that's amazing already. But ask your mortgage broker, like, what's your plan for my portfolio for the next 2 years? If they can't answer that, man, you should revisit who you're using.
Would you say that sometimes you can really vet that by the questions they ask you? Like if you're a
100%.
client, so if they're asking meaningful questions that are forward-thinking, opening doors as opposed to closing them.
It makes it so much easier.
Yeah.
It makes it so much easier because a lot of people are stubborn, right? They're like, oh, I don't want to pay the $1,500 breakage fee. I'm like, dude, man, we save so much more money down long term, right? So
Don't be dollar poor here. Yeah.
Let's create a roadmap to get you there. You might not like the steps to get there, or you might take a hit, but long term wise, it will get you to where you need to be, right?
One thing that Ping always says, especially with the realtors that we work with, and through some of the training that we do, is that we tell people is that you're not just supposed to be somebody who's transacting and opening a door. You also need to become, in a way, a coach. You are an expert. You need to be an expert, rather. Yeah. And if you're not one, you need to work with people who can make you that. You're now somebody who can tell somebody how to do something because they're going to your service, but they don't necessarily know if that is the right service for them. Right. And you need to be somebody who can guide them. I think that's where that real value will come in. And people see that. And obviously, if you're taking this into your own practice, I'm sure this is contributing large to a lot of your success in as a mortgage broker.
And it's never really about the money. Like we've been very lucky in a very bullish market for a number of years now, all of us, right? But to me, the compensation comes when you actually genuinely care. And I love the fact that you added coaching and consultant into your practice here, Andrew, because yeah, you have to have the confidence. Like, hey guys, like, I am the professional here. If you're a painter, I'm not going to teach you how to paint. I'm going to ask you on how I should paint. Real estate advice, mortgage advice, like here, you have to have the confidence. But the only way our agents and your realtors have that confidence is with the right mentorship and the right education.
I want to contextualize a few of the things you said, because you said a lot of very valuable things. And I really like some of them, especially when it comes to you did lean on the aspect of game recognizes game, which is that people who are in the game, even when you're saying that you want to network up with certain people, how do you network? And the thing is that sometimes you meet people who are selling fallacies, people who are just pretending, talking about how good things are. And then you look at this, it's almost like reading magazines. You read the real estate news, the same way some people look at Cosmo and think, and then not realizing that this isn't real.
Right.
But this isn't what people are actually like. People aren't realizing that, people are financed to the T's, that people some people are in between a rock and a hard place. With everything that's going on today, what does this mean for Empire Mortgage Group in terms of how you're pivoting? Because obviously the market's in flux, and you said that you are making certain adjustments. Yeah. What do those adjustments look like?
We've always game planned with our clients, but now it just make it aware. Like, hey guys, you can look at the past and be like, okay, we should have done this and that, but the past is the past. So like, how do we move forward? We have predictions on what's going to happen in the next 6, 12, 18, 24 months. So there's steps along the way here. We're pivoting in an area where, okay, there's different mortgage products that allow us to kind of maybe go in a shorter term or be more flexible depending on where the market goes over the next 12 months, for example. Say the BOC and the Feds will raise interest rates based on inflation numbers. If inflationary numbers continue to rise, then the bank will continue to raise interest rates. Mm-hmm. But the one thing that people don't realize is that interest rates is a lagging indicator, about 4 to 6 months lag indicator. As we're raising interest rates, inflationary numbers might have gone down already, but no one knows. No one in government is going to have the kahunas to stop interest rates rising when inflation numbers are still going up. I think like just holding tight for even 6 months in 2023, if not 1 year, would really give an idea of where inflation number goes. And then from there, they'll either continue to raise it or hold steady or start to move back down. That's why we're trying to look at the market so carefully over the next, few months to see where numbers are going. Major recessions happen in the past is when the bank overshoot on interest rate hikes. Mm-hmm. And I think we might already be there, but if now we're very, very close to, I think like 4%, 4.25% would be overshooting it right now. If we overshoot and as inflation rate goes down, the gap there is where like a major recession is going to happen.
I think we are showing that we are already beating inflation, right?
Yeah. Well, we're beating natural inflation, not core inflation though.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So when you take energy and all that out of it, core inflation numbers it's a very good indicator of where we're going. Regular inflation has gone down a little bit, but core inflation actually went up again. So that's something that we're tracking and monitoring.
So for investors who are trying to renew the mortgage right now,
Yeah.
would you recommend to lock into the
man.
fix or
Loaded. That's loaded, man. That's a loaded question, man.
Yeah, what are some of those predictions? What are you telling your people?
I have a client right now, had a 5-year fix at 149, coming for renewal. It's a tough conversation, but it's a conversation that like has to be had. People got used to 1.5%, 2% interest rates for way too long. We realized that this is going to be the new norm. Like 3.5%, 4.5% is going to be the new norm, right? So we just got to kind of plan accordingly. It's like, okay, say your payment's $3,000 a month, for example, and it's going to go up to $4,500, right? So I can't afford that, Kev. Like, okay, cool, no problem. Like maybe we have to extend your amortization. Like, what are you comfortable paying, right? So that's always a question that we kind of always ask all of our clients during the pre-approval stage. The maximum affordability comes later on if you're comfortable with it, but it's always been, okay, what are you comfortable paying for a mortgage payment on a per month basis? Okay, cool. Let's work backwards. Based on this number that you told me you're comfortable with, you can afford this much. Like, oh, that's way too low. Well, this is what you can afford, or this is what you're comfortable with. I don't think that you should go higher than that. If you want to, I will help you get there. But hey, like to stay within your comfort zone. And those who have stayed in the comfort zone are still fine. I know a lot of investors, a lot of entrepreneurs, that are very aggressive. And you can be very aggressive. You can make a lot of money in a bullish market. But when interest rate hikes,
over leverage,
like it did, it was like literally like 14.25% hikes this year. So like when that happens, man, you're gonna get negative cash flow. You're gonna start bleeding a little bit. Just to plan accordingly, guys. We're spending a lot of time on analysis. So pivoting it is a lot of time, right? You mean like a file that we might spend 20 hours on before, it's like 30 hours now or something like that. So to pivot to your point there, Ping and Andrew, we're just planning a lot more now. We're having those conversations, right? It was yesterday where it was like, hey, what's the best interest rate I can get on a 5-year fix? Now it's like, how do I get my cash flow down so I can sustain this? Because selling our properties now is you're taking a huge hit on it. I've always been a proponent of holding on to real estate, especially on a downward market, because, eventually, with the right research, because, we're all smart. We're not buying properties that were heavily inflated, which the market was for a period of time. But eventually it'll go back to like where it was, maybe not January, February, but like maybe November last year, October last year numbers, right? So eventually the downward spiral of 20, 25, 30% that we've seen in the last 6 months, it'll eventually go back up to maybe, like 5 or 10% under what it was at the peak of the market, which is fine at that point, right? So how do we sustain and keep you guys afloat so you can get back that number?
Very interesting point, because we had other mortgage broker who's just advising people that try to lock it in as short as possible, right? Like the term shouldn't go for over like 2, 3, 4 years. Try to be flexible, but your goal seems to try to get a cash flow as low as possible for the time being.
Depends on
so
the client. Also
depends on the client.
We're very investor heavy for all of our investors right now. Like I think that's sound advice. Like this other mortgage broker. Like if you're locked into a fix, which it does make sense for some people, not a lot of investors, maybe principal res individuals, locking into a 2-year term is awesome. A 2-year fixed term. Because 2024, the indication is that rates are going to start to go back down. That's sound advice, but it's not across the board though, because every client is so different. So you're like, okay, the general consensus is everybody should lock into 2-year fix. I think that's a great plan for a lot of individuals, principal residence, or your principal home, really. But for investors, like you gotta stay flexible, right? Because the issue with that is that it's a great concept because indication is that 2024 rate's gonna go down. But you and I both know a 2-year fix, if you renew on a 2-year, you gotta time that market right at 2 years.
Yeah.
Because you come up for renewal and we undershoot by a year or 6 months, whatever it is, and you're renewing to still a high interest rate, then we're like, oh man, we should have done 3 years.
Are some of the finance partners that you're working with, are they making adjustments that are way more protective of their own interests? Like, for example, I know different investors and house flippers especially who are doing a variety of things, and they're finding themselves making different decisions. One guy, he's doing a slow bleed to wait,
Correct.
where he refinanced high, pulled his construction money out, and he's bleeding the construction money every month a little bit, but he's like, I can last 2-3 years with this bleed. And he's like, if the market recovers, I'm good. But again, that's like timing the market.
Correct.
If the market doesn't go up where he needs it to, I feel like he might lose. And then people have other ones where they will do a 5-year, but then they say, yeah, if I need to break it, I'll just pay the breakage fee.
Yeah.
But are breakage fees going up because financiers are anticipating that that's their plans?
It's a great question too, yeah. Because well, first of all, qualifying is a lot harder now. So the banks are mitigating risk in a sense of loan to value. So we're seeing our refinances, our purchases, even our alternative lending. We're seeing a lot of lower loan to values. And then for qualifying rates, for the longest time, we're qualifying at 5.25. When rates are 1.5, it was at 5.25. When it's 2.5, it was at 5.25. Well, when rates are like 5.5 right now, you're qualifying at 7.5. It's either 5.25 or 2% above contract rate. So when you have clients qualifying at 7.5, like, you know what I mean, not a lot of people are getting approved for mortgages. But what does that do though? It increases the demand for rent. If you have like rental properties who, the clients, the tenants haven't been turned over, is there a way we can turn over those tenants to get the market rents that we're getting right now? Rental income is like an all-time high right now. It's actually unbelievable. And then vacancies are actually pretty low because people can't qualify for mortgages, right? So there's another way you can pivot to try and stop the bleeding. But you're right though, like, I have a lot of flip clients that's slowly bleeding. And it's just like, how do we manage this accordingly so you can get past the next, 18 months, 24 months, and hopefully the market comes up to a level where you can sell the property, even to break even. Because right now we have flippers who sell the properties and lose money, right?
Actually, I'm seeing that all over the market right now. The properties that they're clearly losing money on.
Yeah, so can you rent it out at like like market rates where you can stop some of that bleeding? Can you Airbnb it out, put in a little bit more work? I have a client who has a 3-bedroom house downtown. He was getting $2,300 a month for rent on that property. He's getting $6,500 right now for Airbnb. It's a ton more work, really, for Airbnb. But like, you gotta see if that makes sense or not.
You do what you gotta do.
It's a tough time for everybody.
So for Empire, are you guys still trying to like stay focused on the investor clients, or are you guys also pivoting into?
Like our book of business is literally a variety of different things, right? We do investment properties. We do business for self. First time home buyers, we still have a lot of, right? I think that's gonna come back up again as like all my first time home buyers who had pre-approvals that were refreshing. It's very important to refresh your pre-approvals, guys. For all my realtor friends out there who had clients that pre-approved 6 months ago, 12 months ago, let's get a refresh on that pre-approval because times have changed, right? So, but you're gonna see those individuals starting to buy because especially when it comes to like right now, January, February, March, you're gonna see probably another 5 or 10% decline on the real estate market. I'm sure, that's some data that you guys can, we can work together on just coming up with that calculation. But you're gonna see a lot of, those people buying, and then my investors, like those who are kind of in their comfort zone or have the ability to continue to grow. Those are the ones that are gonna reap a lot of the rewards. If you can stay liquid, and there's gonna be some amazing opportunity come January, February, March, April. Right. And then you can take advantage of that. Like a lot of people made a lot of money in 2009. Where the market's heading to, we'll see where it goes over the next 6 months. But there's going to be some amazing opportunities that you can really take advantage, and you can make a lot of money in the coming years for sure.
Everything's on sale.
Yeah. Multiple offers. Yeah. You actually get condition on financing these days, right?
No, let's talk about the business financing because that's obviously one of the niche that Empire has.
Yeah. Like, so business for self for us is huge. I think we're one of the best at self-employed business for self financing. We have a variety of different lenders and banks that we've worked very closely with over the last few years. That we've created some systems where a lot of our business for self clients really often like, hey, how much should I claim on my taxes in order to qualify for A, B, or C? We really either use that number to gross up a certain event. All of our realtors who are in Prex, we kind of work with them on a different basis where, okay, you've had your PREC for what, 1 year, 1.5 years, maybe 6 months. Like, how can we use some of that income to qualify you? More to that, it's like, how can we use your gross income? If you own a restaurant and you claim $80,000, $50,000 a year in T4 income, but your restaurant's making $2 million, how can we use that $2 million income on your restaurant to qualify? I love planning like the business for self, business owner incomes. Like that's kind of what we're really, really good at. As an individual grows, you mean like a lot of people want to start moving all the properties into corporations. So now financing corporations has always been difficult. Even the A banks have opened the doors for them, but they're still very, very tight on their guidelines in approving properties under a corporation. So we work with select lenders to start moving those properties into a corporation as well, just for tax savings, right?
Can you walk us through, for anybody who wanted to actually try to qualify for the business financing,
Yeah.
how do they actually go through that whole process?
Amazing.
And what kind of interest rate can they actually
amazing.
expect?
Yeah, amazing. So we really dial in if they're like an A client or an alternative client. First and foremost, it starts with a conversation. We have a conversation. We gather supporting documents because people love to just talk about how much they make, but then it looks a little different on paper, right? So we love to dive into supporting documents. Okay, guys, let's put a little bit of work in, but with this little bit of work, I can give you ample options, right? So are you an A client? Are you a B client? How much did you claim? How long you been in the industry for? Is it seasonal? Is it not? Right? So we take all those things into consideration alongside your credit, your access to capital, and you're just like what other properties you kind of own. And then we come up with an analysis together and be like, okay, Ping, Andrew, you can afford this on this. This one, you might have to go B lending. This one, you might have to go private for 6 months, and then we'll refinance to an A lender. Every person is different. So it starts with a conversation. It starts with like an open mind and essentially a planning session. We're doing a lot of planning sessions right now, right? And I love planning sessions. We get the whiteboard out and you put every single scenario on the whiteboard. And okay, let's go through this and let's see how we can get you guys approved at the best rate, right? So
At the best
that's important. Right?
Give us a bit of a range, right? Like let's say if I
Range, 1 to 15%.
1 to 15. That's come on. That's like
that's not a range. That's just
No, but yeah, like I mean, like so it's right now like traditional lending, like Scotiabank right now, they're at like from 5% to 6% in there for a 5-year fix.
pretty good.
Right. So 5 to 6, but then B lending, they're at 6 to 7. Right. So it's just like you're pretty close now from like an A lender to a B lender. So and a B lender, it just opens up so many doors for you.
Does
right?
private even play in there?
Private's always the last resort for me. Right. I don't do privates unless you're flipping, because like in my own flips I do private because it's just easy, flexible, like low docs, and I built the costs of that into my budget. Right. So flipping is fine. But now a lot of our flippers are getting stuck. So you got to make sure you refinance that out into an A lender or a B lender to hold it for the next 1 year, 2 years. Private's always there, but the fees are what gets you on the private, right? Not the interest rate, right? Because the interest rate's like 1 or 2% different from B lender, but just the fees get you pretty heavy.
But when you said to keep the cash, to reduce the monthly payments, right? The flexibility that private gives you to pay interest only. I think that's something that it keeps a lot of people afloat, because if you think about it, even though you're paying those higher percentages, sometimes it ends up being cheaper than going with an A or B lender in the actual monthly payment aspect of it. Maybe not in the end, because private people private lenders kick you on the way out sometimes.
Often clients ask you, what's the best interest rate? Is the best interest rate the most important to you, or the best monthly cash flow, the lowest payment? They're like, what do you mean? It's not the same thing? Like, no, it's actually not. If a lower monthly payment is more important to you, let's scrap the interest rate talk and let's plan accordingly, right? And that's where private can come in too. HELOCs can come into play, right? All these things, 40-year AMs, 35-year AMs can come into play, right? So, but if you don't start that conversation and you're just rate focused, and then all I do is just start rate shopping for you, I'm actually doing you a disservice. Going back to the A lender versus B lender kind of conversation. A B lender allows you to use some of your gross income, allows you to do rentals in HOCO easier. Loan to value, probably the same, but you can be more flexible on the number of properties. We have lenders that allow unlimited number of properties. I'm like, Ping, you own a restaurant, you make $5 million a year, and we can use that $5 million, some of that $5 million, and as long as you have the down payment, you can buy as many properties as you want at 6.5 to 7.5, call it, for example, that range right now. With the latest rate hike, all rates are kind of moving up a little bit. So so to me, that's kind of 1 or 2 year term too, which is nice because predictions are that rates are going to go back down in 2024. So if it comes up for renewal, then we can maybe refinance at that time because it's 20% or 10% higher than what the market is now, plus your pay down, and then also at a lower interest rate. So therefore qualifying will be a lot easier.
And let's quickly talk about the investors who are putting all the assets under a corporation, because in your experience, there's no limit with how many properties that they can actually acquire.
With certain lenders, for sure. You are limiting yourself to the amount of banks and lenders that you have access to when you do purchase in a corporation across the board, right? So you're going from unlimited access to about maybe 5 or 7 banks and lenders that will actually allow you to do that. And that's tightening up too. For tax planning purposes, I love it. And I get it why people are doing it. But you really have to kind of revisit why you're doing it, not because you listen to some podcast and they tell you to do it, right? So
Yeah.
And that's part of the conversation you will have with your clients, right?
course,
Like
of
to
course.
sort of review or evaluate their goal, their investment goal, and to kind of work backwards and
sure.
see if it actually makes sense to put it
Yeah.
under corporation.
We'll work with your accountant too. Mortgage broker, lawyer, accountant, and the client, right? The way an accountant will structure something might not be able to get you financing. The way a lawyer structures something might not be able to get you financing. But that's the best way though. That's the best way for them. But that's the best way for the accountant. But if you have your power team and you kind of work together, okay, you're not paying the lowest tax, but you're not also paying the highest tax, but it allows you to get the best financing. Let's go down that route.
Yeah, you have to hit that threshold.
You
that
have to hit the
benchmark.
threshold. But if you don't talk, that could be the issue, right? But then, and then I sit down, hey, Kevin, I want all my properties in a corporation. Awesome. Paying why? For tax savings. Okay. How much are you saving? Not sure. I just know there's savings. I'm like, why don't we figure that out and to see if that makes sense? Oh, you're saving $500 a month in taxes, but you're paying $3,000, a month in interest. Like, it doesn't really make sense, right? So it's just like, let's work through these numbers and just like get rid of all the hoopla that they see in the news and media and really just dial into your specific portfolio because everyone's different.
Let's quickly talk about commercial financing because I know that's going to be your biggest focus probably come in 2023.
Commercial financing has been a big topic for us over the last 6 months, right? A lot of our business owners are seeing rents increase, so they're actually going to acquiring properties instead of just leasing it out. So we've tried to open the door quite a bit on our commercial financing options for our clients. We're actually working with a couple of brokers on our team to create a commercial financing arm. Not even just for our own brokerage, for any mortgage broker, any advisor out there that have clients and then say their brokerage don't concentrate necessarily on commercial financing, reach out to us, right? And then we'll pay you a finder's fee. You know what I mean? And then we can work together to get financing for your clients, right? So I think that's going to be a huge focus for us come 2023 is that like, hey, how do we get not only access to more commercial financing, but better rates, better loan to value, a more efficient process. It's been a focus throughout my whole career. I haven't really dialed that in because we try to master residential. So now that I feel like we have a really good grasp on residential financing, commercial is just a natural kind of add-on for us because there's more and more demand for it. When I acquire commercial financing, I go directly to the bank. We have to charge a fee actually. You know what I mean? Like it'd be a 1/4 point or 1/2 point or 1% fee, whatever that is. If we can package a deal properly for you guys. If you guys go direct to the bank, you don't have to pay, you just pay the lender fee. What we thrive on is that we have so much experience of packaging a deal that will get you better loan to value, more money, quicker turnaround time, right? So if we can do that for you, then hey guys, like we got this package, we have access to this lender, but we're gonna charge a fee to help you guys package this, but you're gonna get a better rate, which can save you money, better loan to value, a better amortization, wherever that is, right? So if we can do that for you, that's a service that we thrive on. And then what we naturally do is that, hey, this is the lender. For the first deal, we're gonna charge you a fee. Any deal after that, guys, go directly to them. You
already have the relationship.
You guys have the relationship already. Like so for us, like we only charge if we put the work in, right? You know what I mean? Like I do a lot of things pro bono. But like at the end of the day, like nobody wants to work for free. After a certain amount of hours, I'm like, guys, I really have to like, I have overhead. I have a staff. I have, billing costs and stuff like that.
No, the
right?
underwriting for commercial is crazy. Like the amount of back and forth has always been like so much.
It's also very like, kind of opaque kind of environment, right? And it depends on many variables, right? We have lenders who do 1% DSR. We have others who do 1.4%. You know what I mean? Like 1.4% DSR is tough to get, right? So just like, okay, how do we work with them? Oh, this is a very strong tenant. Oh, with a good history, so we can get that lower instead of a 5-year, maybe it's a 10-year lease, 15-year lease. They're stronger, so we'll get the DSR down a little bit.
Can you explain to us in terms of commercial? Let's say I walked through the front door of a bank, went and applied for commercial mortgage. You would essentially be able to approach on my behalf the same institution, but be able to get me a more favorable setup. Correct?
Because we package it.
Okay, so it's all about the presentation.
It's all about the presentation.
Now, why is it that you would be able to do that, but the bank won't be able to see this for me? Is it?
Any banker is kind of stuck inside that box. How many personal net worth statements have you guys filled out? Fill this out. Okay, and then let me see your rent roll, and let's see your billing financials, and then based on this, we can't really do anything because the bank's job is just to mitigate as much risk as possible, right? You mean, yeah, they're making money off you, but at the same time, like most of them are kind of on a salary, and like do we want to really put in the effort and work? So if you don't have a relationship there, you don't have your accounts there, you're just another person walking in because they're seeing probably tens of hundreds of these on a weekly basis of just, oh man, like, people inflating their rents or whatever it is, right? But how we do it is we tell a story. We're like, hey guys, like I know these are your guidelines, and we're going to abide by your guidelines. But like, do you see what we're trying to prove here and where we're going with this? And like the history of this property, these tenants, these rents, the potential of this building. And like, so we take all that. You guys can build a story on your own. But what I've seen with clients is sometimes they lack direction on what to focus on and what to emphasize, right? And then what we're really good at that. And that's how we get our clients better financing. And there are often times where we can't. And we be honest with you guys, like, that's the best deal. Andrew, take the deal, man. Like, you know what I mean? Go take it.
Yeah,
because we can do it better.
With us, usually if we go directly to the bank, we don't even know which bank to go to.
Right.
We just go with a bank that we already have an account with.
Sure,
right?
sure.
And we don't necessarily know that, okay, we can probably go to B lender, we can probably go to like even C lenders. And with you guys, it's just present a lot more options.
Yeah, that's what we can help with, right? And once you have access to that bank, like I didn't even know that they do commercial finance. I'm like, now you guys do. For the next deal, just go directly to them. And if you can't get it done through them, come back to us, and then we'll see if there's another bank out there that you guys can take advantage of.
So somebody's doing that, and let's say they already qualified, and they need to refinance a commercial property a year later. Should they still do that through a broker, or do they just go directly
The issue
to their...
that I've seen a lot of is that, like as investors like us, we always try to find undervalued properties. And then if it's undervalued, like we're trying to get it vacant as well, right? So if you undervalue vacant, you're probably not going to get traditional financing because your rents are not there. So you're probably going to go B lending or private, most likely. When you fix up the property and you rent it out and you get the properties up to market rent, yeah, that's when we look at traditional lending.
Is that even when we're with B and refinancing with B?
Absolutely, yeah. Because with B financing, there are often times where the local consumer don't have access to these B lenders, right? So
for a lot of house flippers who have the private financing on their properties, on their projects right now, what's your recommendation on how they should plan the next move? Should they continue with the private lending on the interest only, or would you recommend to refi with a B lender?
How are you for cash flow wise right now? We have a whole set of questions that we ask you back, right? It's like how are you for cash flow right now?
Let's assume that it's not great, right?
Yes,
People are...
if it's not great, okay, let's see what the option looks like if you do refinance. If we do refinance into a B lender or A lender, whatever that is, what does that monthly look like? Going back to your point earlier, Andrew, is that the interest only payment might be lower than the amortized payment. If I want to refinance you for a lower interest rate, but your payments are higher, is that what we're trying to accomplish here? If it's not, then okay, well, if you're bleeding on this and you're like, hey, Kevin, we can't sustain this for more than 6 months. So what do we do then? Do we try to extend the amortization in a way where if you do go to B, the payments do lower? That's amazing, right? If not, then is there a way we can increase rents? No, we're at market rents. Okay, can we free up some capital to carry on the shortfall for the next year or two, right? So there's different options, but it is a laundry list of questions that we have to answer together.
People tend to ask these broad blanket questions, right? Like, what is the best way to go, as if there's one pick to cover them all, right? But it is obviously very tailored case by case, what your goals are and, what reserves you have. I think we even tell people the same thing when people even ask us fundamental questions. What's the fastest way for me to grow my real estate portfolio? Well, it depends what you can avoid, right? Like, do you have familial resource? Do you have lending? Or do you have money or no money, right? Like, there's too many things that factor in that make it difficult to just answer that question blank.
And like,
right?
I can't compare it to like, you're walking into a car dealership,
and
you're like, "Okay, I want the best car here." Okay, like you're looking for performance, you're looking for a minivan, you're looking for a truck, like you're looking for a sedan.
Define what is best for you.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. I'll throw you into a 2-door Lamborghini, but you have a family of 6. Like, you know what I mean? Like, okay, you're gonna crash and burn really quickly. Everything has to be bespoke in this day and age.
And to that point, would you advise that anybody who's looking to vet a mortgage broker or to work with somebody, would you advise that they become an intelligent consumer? Like, how much do they need to look into things so that they can ask the right questions?
Yeah.
Like how like, is it just find somebody reputable, or should they do their own due diligence on, how these things work?
It's funny because I remember when I went to an emerge once, because I thought I broke my finger. Okay, so I go in there and I talk to my good buddy at the he's an emerge surgeon. He's looking at it and he also starts Googling things. And I'm like, are you Googling stuff right now? He's like, yeah. I'm like, I can Google. He's like, no. The difference is that I know what sources are reputable. It's like going to the library, looking at an encyclopedia instead of a book that somebody wrote, right? So he's like, the difference between you and I is that I know what sites are reputable and you don't. To be an intelligent consumer, it's very important to stay updated on the market happenings, but you really have to take everything out there with a grain of salt, right? And then that allows you to answer the questions. It's like, I think interest rates are going to go up by a lot more than what's predicted. I think interest rates are going to go up by 2%, 3%, whatever that is, right? Okay, but take a step back and like, why do you think that? Or ask those questions. Hey, Mr. Mrs. Mortgage Advisor, do you think interest rates are going to go up that much? If you don't, why? If you do, why? Right? So it's just like, You know, the book Start With Why. It's an amazing read. There's a lot of misconceptions out there, and you just have to ask questions and not be afraid to ask questions. A lot of my novice investors that have built a really good sounding business, they're not afraid to ask questions. To be an intelligent consumer is very key, but at the end of the day, if you just keep asking questions, that's how you become an intelligent consumer.
That brings into the point where everybody's reading things like BuzzFeed headlines, other things that are going out there, and people are talking. A popular topic of conversation right now is breaking point.
Yeah.
Everybody has their opinions on it. Like, even for myself, one of the things that I think, actually, I would love to hear your opinion on this. I think that the only time that the interest rates maybe will start to correct is, for lack of a better way to say it, when heads start to roll, right? When people actually foreclosures start happening, people start losing because, now up until just, what might start happening, breaking point is that your payments will actually increase on those variables that wouldn't before. So if that starts happening, that will make a true financial difference to people's ability to carry these mortgages, right? Like single families, even like people who are living in duplexes and house hacking, this might make a serious impact. So what do you think the breaking point is going to mean to the market, and when do you think that's coming in a significant way?
We've seen defaults happen already, and defaults is also a lagging indicator because every homeowner would beg, borrow, to pay their mortgage payments. That's like the last thing you want to miss. People would do that for 4 or 6 months before they start defaulting. We're seeing some of the defaults already from like the summer hikes. So like September hikes, October hikes, December hike. It's a very crucial time in our economy right now that we have these conversations. And I'm so glad you brought it up because trigger rates have happened already. And
trigger rate, that's what it's called. That's the breaking point.
That's fine. Yeah, I know exactly what you meant. Yeah. Some will happen again when the next hike comes. What people don't realize is that static variable rate is an amazing product to match fixed rates. Historically, it's always been a great product, right? And trigger rates very often happen over history. But now that you're seeing it, it's a real conversation because trigger rate happens when your payment is no longer principal and interest, and it's just interest. And for our calculation, it's actually a fairly kind of simple calculation that I can share with you guys on how to estimate what that trigger point would be. Say if you're in a 5-year variable with a static variable rate product, right? And your payments have been exactly the same. And even if you haven't hit the trigger rate yet, and your amortization started at 25 years, and now it's at 28 years, 29 years because of the rate hikes. On renewal, the bank's going to try to get you back to 25 years or 20 years on where you're supposed to be. That's a huge increase in payments literally overnight. If you're in a static variable and rates go up, we advise people to just increase your payments as if you're actually paying the market rates. So it's when you come up for renewal, your payments are equal to. But you haven't been able to do that, then we would have to refinance it out to extend the amortization to make sure your cash flow you're comfortable with. And then once the rates go back down again, we can increase that payment again to really accelerate your amortization. Right now, though, it's a good time to get into a static variable because, the consensus is that rates are not going to go up to a level where it's going to trigger that in the next year or two. But those coming up for renewal, those are about to hit the trigger rate. It's a scary thought because most of the time it is just an owner-occupied principal res.
I was reading that some of the average mortgages that are, like I think in Ontario, and you can tell me if what it might be if this is not correct, is so people have mortgages around like $700,000. Let's say they hit trigger rate. What might an increase like that look like if somebody has to make additional payments?
Yeah, great question. It's whatever your amortization has extended to at that point.
Is that only on renewal or the trigger rate will...
Yeah, so every bank does it differently.
Yeah.
Just like every bank does their IRD calculation a little differently, depending on what your initial rate is, what your initial discount is, and then it's a general calculation on what that would be. But in order to calculate your trigger rate, it's take your monthly principal and interest payment, times it by 12, which is 1 year worth of payments, divided by your balance. That's a rough indicator on what your trigger rate would be. And then if you're close to that, then let's start having that conversation because it might happen soon.
All right, Kevin, listen, I think that's about all the time that we have. Like, honestly, this is a lot of really great information, and I think we can sit here talking for way longer than we probably have. But if anybody has any questions for you, because you obviously have a lot of insight and you're sharing a lot of great information, if anybody has questions for you, what's the best way for somebody to connect with you?
Email is the best, kevin@empiremortgagegroup.ca. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Let's start a conversation. Let's chat, right? So I think we started the dialogue early. It can never hurt. You know what I mean? So let's plan accordingly. If the plan that we set in place doesn't work for you today, it might work for you in the future. But if you don't start that dialogue, it can never happen, right? So yeah. So Empire Mortgage Group, Kevin@empiremortgagegroup.ca.